Congressman Mike Waltz here in New York with me this morning. Congressman, would you block more spending for Ukraine?
I just have an op-ed out today, Stu, and Fox Digital that lays out that we have to have conditionality on this aid going forward. The era of the blank check in Congress is over, but we need some reasonable space between not another dollar and blank check as long as it takes. So what are the conditions? One, you got to have a strategy. Every military operation, you need to know what the objectives are. What does success look like? What's the strategy to get there? Biden has not explained that. He has to do it and should have to do it to get another dollar. And then two, the Europeans have to step up. They need to match us dollar for euro. I have legislation to force them to do that. And look, so 2% of their GDP for defense, only 9 of the 31 NATO members, and we've been begging them literally for decades. Germany just walked back its promise to get to 2%. It's right on their doorstep. I think the American taxpayer is right to demand that the Europeans defend themselves. I'm tired of subsidizing it.
Do you want Zelensky to win? And by winning, I mean throw out Russian troops from the territory they've occupied since February of last year.
What does winning look like? Is it all of Crimea? Is it all of the Donbass?
Just the area that they've occupied so far.
Is it back to the 2014 line? I mean, I think those are all reasonable objectives, but they'll take very different things, very different amount of money. You know, just again, as long as it takes blank check when our border is out of control, inflation's out of control, it's just not acceptable at this point. And I've been supportive that we have to stop Putin or else he'll hit NATO and we'll get drug into this war. But we have to have this administration articulate a strategy.
Congressman, as a military man, I'm going to listen to what the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley, says about the military going woke. Watch this.
I'm not even sure what that word truly means. I would tell you that the military I see is a military that's exceptionally strong, it's powerful, it's ready. In fact, our readiness rates, the way we measure readiness, is better now than they've been in years.
Congressman, you're shaking your head.
I don't know how the general says that with a straight face. I have an entire binder that cadets, military members, families of this kind of nonsense, like how to cope with your whiteness and white rage, a lecture at West Point, pronoun training at the Air Force Academy. The Secretary of the Army says her #1 goal for the Army is to be carbon neutral by 2030, which could include electric tanks. Haven't seen any charging stations in. We're in the middle of the worst recruiting crisis since Vietnam. The Army's down 45,000 troops in the last 2 years, and 40% of our submarine fleet, 40%, can't get out of maintenance, can't get out of the dry dock. So we're down in recruiting, we're down in readiness, we're not focused on lethality, and they're focused on diversity and climate instead, while the threats from our enemies are exploding around the world.
Do you feel the military is almost a laughingstock?
Well, look, I would, as an Army man, I would never say that. But the leadership of this Pentagon is a laughingstock. They're taking the military in a dangerously wrong direction. And we need our generals to step up and say enough is enough.
Congressman, thanks for being with us today in New York. Be careful out there, young man. Be careful. All right. Thanks, Congressman.